This is a very special moment for me because what you are about to watch or listen to is, after 10 deep dive conversations just with myself, the first conversation in the Truth podcast that I am fortunate enough to have with another human being. I invited my brother Alex. We actually got to know each other last week, and we feel already such a strong such a strong connection and so many interesting topics to talk about that we needed to record this podcast together. Um, there was no agenda. It was just pure divine flow. I enjoyed it so much, and I hope it will bring as much joy to you as it brought to me. But before, two important things. First of all, if you want to continue the conversation, if like these topics that we talk about in the podcast, if they matter to you, if they bring value to you, and you're like, oh my God, that's interesting, and I want to really, really go deeper, then I can highly recommend you to join our private Telegram channel. The Telegram channel, there's a really nice spirit, lots of amazing human beings. I'm sharing multiple times a day right now, so much that is flowing through me. Like I'm the vessel, like, for so many super different topics about health, about entrepreneurship, about relationships, about finance, and so much more. Like, I'm sharing everything, books that I'm reading, podcasts that I'm listening to. Join the Telegram channel. It's my favorite place on the internet. Maybe it will become yours too. And then, secondly, if especially the topics that we are talking about today, about holistic health, about nutrition, about awakening your inner life force energy, if this is something that really resonates with you, and you don't only want to learn about that and only want to, like, listen to people talking about that, but you actually want to embody that, and you want to create a setting for yourself where, from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed, like, you're so overflowing of life force energy, and you're like, the vibration in your body just cannot not be expressed because it's so strong. If this is something that calls you, then I want to invite you to Align. Align is the retreat I just shared with the world. I will be hosting 2 retreats this year in 2023. One in October in Poland, in the Białowieża National Park, the last primeval forest in Europe, a truly beautiful place. And then the second one will be here in Bali, in my home, at Mount Batu, the second highest mountain in Bali, at a marvelous place, a permaculture estate. 10 days in Poland or here in Bali, 10 days of really embodying this pure divine life force energy that wants to flow through you and that enables you everything that you want to create in your business, that enables you the most beautiful relationships, and equips us to build the more beautiful world together. Because actually, when I look into my past, I did many great things in business, but in many moments I was not really connected with the purest form of life force energy, and then things got sideways. Every moment when things get, like, difficult, and there were problems, and projects didn't turn out as successful as I hoped for, it was because I was not living in full alignment with myself. And this is my strongest belief, that the more we are in alignment with the purest essence of ourselves and flowing, like, 24/7, 365, connected with this divine life force energy, then business will be beautiful. Making an impact will be effortless. And if that's not the case, then things are a struggle and things become hard. My my journey is a living proof of that. So if you feel the calling with me and incredible teachers, coaches, and shamans, 10 days that have the possibility to potentially change your life, If you feel the calling, check out the link in the show notes and see you in Poland or see you in Bali. Let's hop on a call and check out if it's a match. But now, without further introduction, enjoy today's conversation with my brother Alex. And I'm curious what will emerge for you. Let's dive in.
Welcome. Welcome to my home and welcome to the space. Really appreciate you being here. Super looking forward to our conversation. There are so many things currently that are alive in me and so many topics that really fascinate me, and I want to quickly share the story how we got to know each other, which is only a week ago, I think. I know we're here sitting in podcast and recording together. A week ago, Alec, a good friend of yours, he reached out to me on Telegram a couple of months ago, and then we started texting, and last week he invited me to your place, and then we spent a nice day together. And I remember one situation where I just arrived, and then we were standing in the kitchen, and I was drinking my green juice, and then you joined us and munching on a dragon fruit, and Alec was preparing his papaya smoothie, and then we were talking about like nutrition and fasting, and at the same time about building a community and entrepreneurship, and it was just like the energy was just flowing. And these are the conversations that I really appreciate and that I want to have more often. And from the first minute on, I felt like such a strong resonance and felt like we are on such a similar journey together, creating all these beautiful things, and at the same time seeing ourselves as a vessel for the change that wants to come into this world. And I really appreciate that. And now with you sitting here and recording this episode together, that makes me grateful. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for our connection. It's just unfolding, and looking forward to everything that will emerge out of that. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Robert. And yeah, it's been a joy to meet with you about a week ago. And I remember being amazed at how much we have in common. I think when we are in a certain space and state of consciousness, it's easier sometimes to meet someone, and even though you've just met them a week ago, there's a feeling of familiarity because we're connected to that oneness, and it's easier to recognize, I find. And I find that with many people, but sometimes you have a feeling of oneness, but not necessarily of similarity. Where with you, it was, oh, we have so much in common.
Yeah.
I remember we started talking about nutrition, and I was like, oh, are you vegan? Oh, you're vegan. Interesting. And then you asked me, what's your human design?
Yeah.
And I told you, guess.
Yeah.
I said projector. Like, yeah, you got it.
And which year were you born?
Yeah.
Mighty Bam.
How old are you? Both 33. And then you invited me to your Telegram channel, and I invited you to my Telegram channel. And then I thought I could be on your podcast, and you could be on my podcast.
And we almost
build community.
And we almost ate the same amount of bananas. That's a fun fact. So yeah.
I also came to your place with my banana.
Yeah.
Really creeped. Raw vegan, Italian. So yeah, it's been amazing to see, get to know you, but also see those similarities, and made me really curious.
Cool. As I already said to you, like when I do a podcast, I don't like prepare any topics. I just want to see where the energy is and where the flow might lead us. One thing that I'm very, very curious, and I think that could be a nice starting point. One of the topics that fascinate me the most, and where I'm doing a lot of experiments right now, is the topic, or is the question of how can I nourish my body in a way that makes it very easy for me to be in such a high energy state and in such a vibrancy, where like all the things that want to flow through me, that want to manifest through me, can just like manifest, and I don't interrupt the flow of energy, which we do so much through not living in a way that's really aligned, and that's really like how nature intended our bodies to be like. And you just finished your 12-day water fasting, right? Where was that?
14 days.
14 day.
By the way, that's a very Bali interview. I have my coconut in front of the banana tree.
Cheers.
That was delicious. Yeah, 14 days.
14 days.
Yeah.
When was that? When did you finish?
About a month ago.
A month.
Yeah.
I dove into the topic of fasting quite a lot over the past years. Since 2010, 13 years ago, I started eating vegan, and I started eating raw vegan. There was a period in between where I was not raw. I just turned raw vegan again 3 months ago, I think. There was actually 8 years that I ate like maybe 50% cooked food, and 3 months ago I had this epiphany of, why did I sacrifice my truth all these years? It doesn't make any sense. Look at my energy level. Look at how I feel right now after only like nourishing my body with these like pure, vibrant, whole fruits and veggies and nuts. And it was just a game changer. And yeah, over this like whole almost 1.5 decades, I did a lot of like fasting intervals, but I didn't do 2 weeks of water fasting yet. How was the whole experience for you? How would you describe that?
Yeah, it was smoother than I thought. Also a bit more boring than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Was quite fine for the body. The body was very weak and tired and rested a lot, but that's how... There's different schools of water fasting, but the intention I had for this was an intention of healing and on resting the body, almost to the point that if you stimulate the body through doing all the things like work and going around, being busy, you actually stop the detoxification process. So my intention was to rest a lot. So the body was weak, but overall pretty fine. But I wanted to do only 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that I could go longer. So I went 14 days. And the trade-off my mind did with my body is my mind was saying, okay, we can go longer than 14 days, but let's do a little bit more activities. Let's watch more videos. Let's be more online. Let's talk more to people. Because the hardest part was the boredom.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Also, I feel that the body could have continued, but I've dived a lot into fasting, and I've watched hundreds of hours of content. So, I mean, nowhere an expert, but I definitely got enough for myself to understand a bit what I was doing for 14 days. But I felt, even if I felt good, my max before was 5 days, so I thought it was enough. I might, like, if I wanted to do more, I probably would have wanted supervision then. And also, you know, for anyone listening, I think it's good to have supervision in general. Here, I educated myself so much that I felt comfortable to go to 14 days by myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it was not the first time that you did that, right?
I did twice 5 days before.
5 days, yeah.
But it's still quite a bit more.
Yeah. And I think there's
How about you?
There's a huge difference between only drinking water compared to what I did most of the times when I was fasting. I was still drinking coconut water and drinking juices, like cold pressed juices, and I did that for like 10 days, 12 days, 14 days.
Yeah.
And it was basically like I didn't feel so much. It was mainly like normal life because you were still drinking around 3 liters of fresh juice, like one in the morning, one at noon, and one in the evening. And I was working, I was running my business, so it was not like with this attention that you had of I want to really give my body the time to purify, to detox. It was more like, hey, over the past weeks I ate a lot of crap, not like crap in the sense that I ate crap when I was 17, but like vegan crap. And I felt like, I want to like give my body a little bit of break. Okay, let's...
Too much cashew cheese.
Yeah, cashew cheese and vegan pizza and all these nice things. And then I did like this juice fasting, and I always liked that a lot because it was very, very easily to fit that into your day-to-day routine.
Technically, some people wouldn't even say that juice fasting is the correct word. So, like in the pure sense, fasting is a restriction of calories.
Yeah.
So some people call it juice feasting. Some people it's more funny, or just cleanse.
Yeah.
But it's true that technically fasting, you don't have the calories.
Eating, no food.
Yeah. It's like when you get juice, you get calories, and so you get more energies.
Yeah.
Then in fasting, some people keep, I don't know, having tea or coffee or things that have very, very low calories, but that still give energy.
Yeah.
Personally, I went for just water, meaning I didn't have salt. I didn't have lemon in my water.
Yeah.
I didn't have any supplement. I really just had water.
Got it. And what would you say, like, what were the biggest outcomes that you sense? Like, was it worth it? Like, when you look back into the 2 weeks of boredom and just
I hope it was home. I hope it was. I mean, boredom's already worth it. We meditate.
Yeah.
Like try to do 2 hours a day. I think you're pretty dedicated to. And there's medicine in the boredom and getting away from all the stimulation. So in that way, it was a retreat, and I came back refreshed, a bit like if I did a Vipassana retreat.
Yeah.
Then I'm rebuilding the body. So after 1 month, I'm back to almost the weight before, and I'm tracking the fat and the muscle. So I'll release a documentary on it.
Cool. And if you released, or you will?
I will.
Okay, nice.
In a week or two, because I want to include a month of rebuilding.
Epic.
Because to me, the fast isn't the 2 weeks of drinking water. It's the 2 weeks of drinking water, the 1 week of refeeding slowly, and also the months of rebuilding the body and staying on so I could be more strict on what I eat. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful experience. For me, it feels totally worth it. I've learned from it about myself, about my body, about my mind. I feel super healthy, and I need a little bit more time to see, do I feel so much better? Do I feel so much stronger? I'm back to kind of the same eating, which is a lot of fruits and a big salad, usually. And I came back to working out almost every day. So I feel good. But we'll see over the long term. I also released, so that's going to be part of my documentary for the people who want to, I don't show the graphics or anything, but on day 12, I did an enema. Otherwise, I didn't do any enema, but I could feel some buildup of material in my colon, even though I was only drinking water. And I released that on day 12. And so I feel I've let go of some things, and I have some statistics about my visceral fat that I calculated that show for that. So yeah, I think it's been very beneficial. And I think in a year or two, I'll probably go 21 days. I'm also interested in living more pranic lifestyle and eating less, which is not where I'm at the moment. I'm more like eating a lot the raw vegan. But that's where I'm at. And at the same time, I've noticed in our community, that's why I'm really interested in your experience too, Robert, because I'm only like 5 years mainly vegan and then 2 years mainly raw vegan. But I've seen a lot of people who do like 2 or 3 years raw, and they're like, this is the best, and they've seen the light. That's the way to go. And then 1 year later, it's like, I was malnourished. And that's the people who then keep sending me things about why veganism doesn't work. So I'm sure you have a lot of that around you too. So so let's say where I'm at, my mind is like, that's the past, that's the thing. I'll do longer fast, keep eating super pure, even reduce the quantity, go more pranic. It looks very clear. But from experience, some people were like this in that consciousness, and you meet them 1 or 2 years later and they're different. So after 2 years doing that, I don't want to draw conclusions too fast. I'm interested how it's been for you, being so long on this.
Actually, it's so interesting. I totally agree with you, especially like there are some like big influencers in the like vegan or in the raw vegan sphere, and they are really like, this is the path. And then you see a video and they say like, oh no, I changed my mind and now I eat like
Tim Schiff, you know, or Robert Casson.
Yeah.
Like people who were like swearing by it.
Yeah. And I'm always wondering like, but yeah, everybody is on their journey, and I totally respect that. But what for me lies underneath all of that, so I'm not dogmatic into like any particular eating regime that you need to follow, but for me what lies underneath, and this is something that I sensed from the beginning on, was that the more lightly and the more water based like my food is, the better I feel. Yeah. This is for me the basic assumption. The more processed and the more dense food is, the more energy it requires for digestion, and the worse I feel. That's for me the underlying assumption. So that means when I eat a watermelon, I feel more energized compared to eating the cashew cheese, even though the cashew cheese is nice from time to time. But even the cashew cheese for me and my body like feels better than eating the candy bar, because the candy bar is way more processed, and from the pure state of like harvesting something from nature to the point where you actually consume that, maybe that took like weeks or months, or maybe it stayed on the shelf for even like years because it's so processed. So I really feel that the higher the water content and the less processing the food underwent, the better I feel.
I love that you're bringing how you feel, because like there's always the mind and the body. So for me, a lot of it really makes sense in my mind. But then in the body, it can take a little bit more time and observation. And actually, one of the big benefits of the fast was to test food one after the other again, and have an understanding and an embodied experience of what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So for example, some people say, oh, tomatoes, they're nightshades, they're not good for you, because then I haven't dived so much into the nightshades reason. But after my fast, when I had tomatoes, like a meal of tomatoes, it felt amazing. And I almost have tomatoes every day since then. And I can feel that it's something that works well, at least for my body. And you can.
I would feel a quick story about tomatoes. It's so interesting that you brought them up, because I one of the first things after switching raw vegan was you won't consider it as a fast, but it was kind of. I did Banana Island. Are you familiar with that? Only eating bananas, like nothing else. I did it for
I call it a cleanse.
A cleanse, yeah, a banana. But it was actually like 30 bananas a day, so it was a lot of calories. Maybe like between 25 and 30 bananas. I did that for a week because I saw some YouTubers doing
like
that.
a monofruit.
It's monofruit, yeah. And it was a nice experience, but I had like one craving the whole week. And the one craving was, I want tomatoes, because it was so sweet. Like everything was so sweet. And I was trying to mix between like eating the bananas like this, then making a smoothie, then making some ice cream. But I always like, I was craving the tomato. And then when I broke my cleanse, the first thing I had was a tomato, and it tasted so good. So I can really understand. I love tomatoes as well. Yeah. So yeah, for me, the underlying assumption is like as much water as possible. And that's why I think you're familiar with Hilton Rotima's work as well, right?
Yeah.
You wrote the Man's Higher Consciousness, and that's a book. I quickly want to share the story how I got to that, because it totally exemplifies how life really works. There was one day where I went to Ubud, like the closest city here, it's close to where you live. I sat on my scooter and I was like, I want to go to a restaurant. I want to have some nice dinner. Where do I want to go? And actually, I wanted to go to Sayuri's first, because they have my favorite raw vegan dish like on the whole world. It's a raw vegan salmon sandwich. It's so amazing. And I wanted to go there. But then I had just the epiphany, no, let's not go there. Let's go to Seeds of Life. Seeds of Life is a full raw vegan restaurant. And I was like, why? Because they have my favorite dish. But I was like, no, let's go there. And I was, okay, I go there. And then I just sit there and I was ordering some food, and then I went to the toilet. And then on the toilet of this restaurant, the inside of the toilet door is covered with an excerpt of a book. And then I started reading. Like the quality is like really old, really yellow. It's difficult to read. But I was there, and I was really, really intrigued because there were some words like that the body doesn't need food, and that eating is an acquired habit. And I was like,
Interesting branding for restaurants.
oh yeah, I was like, okay, that I never heard about that. Okay, that sounds kind of weird, and at the same time that sounds kind of interesting. And then I went outside and I asked the staff, what is this? What kind of book is that? Can you help me with that? And they were like, no, we don't know. And I was like, yeah, okay. But then one of the staff members came and said, actually, the owner of this place is here. He's next door. You can ask the owner. Maybe he will know it. And then I went there and I was talking to the owner and I asked him, and he said it's Hilton Rotima, and it's an excerpt of the facts of nutrition. And he actually said, when you're interested in that, start with Man's Higher Consciousness. That's like his like standard work. And he said it's maybe a little bit difficult to get this book, but you will find it. Can highly recommend it to you. And then a little bit of like a couple of days passed, and I almost didn't remember this. And then I was sitting on my couch one evening, and I was like, oh, let's check this book out he recommended to me. And then I discovered that the Man's Higher Consciousness is available on Audible as well. And I downloaded it as an audiobook, and I started listening. And it's basically built around this thesis of, or this question of what does our body really need in order to thrive? And that most of the things that are told, that we get told by like mainstream media and science and everything that our body needs, maybe it doesn't need that, and maybe it needs other things that nobody really talks about. And I was really intrigued because it opened a new frontier for me on my quest of real, like, ideal nourishment. And then I dove into this book, and and that's why I'm so like in awe for the magic of how life works. Because if I haven't gone to Seeds of Life instead, I wouldn't have discovered this book, and I wouldn't have learned all these things. And still, I'm experimenting. I'm not like, okay, this is the truth, and but I'm really, really, really trying to make sense of that for me and to experiment. And then the owner was there. If the owner wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't have discovered the book. And and why I'm telling this story, because what he proposes is that the lighter we eat, and he even says, like, in the ultimate state, the body is not intended to eat at all. And you can argue about that, and we are both not there yet. We don't have any first-hand experiences, and will be a fun journey to test and to experiment and to see where that leads us. But I strongly feel that the less I eat and the higher water content my food is, and the more I do those like fasting or cleansing episodes, the better I feel. And that this, hey, your body needs 2,500 calories, and your body needs like this amount of carbohydrates and this amount of fats and this amount of proteins. I'm starting to question those more and more and more and more. And I'm super curious what you think, or what is your explanation? Why are those fasting episodes, why are they so beneficial for our body, even though everybody thinks, hey, you need this and this and this, and it's so crazy. Every time my body doesn't feel good because I had a long flight or I ate something that is not good for you, I immediately have this urge to eat less or to not eat at all. And you see that with animals as well, if they are sick. Or I see that with my son. Sometimes when he's not feeling well, he's not hungry. And we have this natural pull towards reducing our food intake, when we sense that there's some healing necessary, and still society tells us you need this and this and this and that, and this is something that somehow doesn't fit together. What is your take on that?
Yeah, it's almost like there's two paradigms for me. There's where fasting fits. There's a paradigm of the physical and the number of calories where we need food to live. But at the same time, in that paradigm, you can still fast for weeks and have amazing benefits. And then you have the most spiritual Brazilian paradigm where fasting can be a training towards not eating food to live and living on prana. So there are almost two different ways to fast.
Life. Yeah.
And you have some fasting experts kind of who have their retreats. I follow a lot Lauren Lockman. I had him on my podcast. I know there's like Alan Goldhammer. There's a lot of people who have clinics where you fast to heal. And in that case, usually a paradigm is, in theory, most humans can fast, go on water for like 6 or 7 weeks before then the body starts eating itself and you start starving. So there's a paradigm. And usually in these clinics, they don't go normally as far as 6 or 7, and unless you have like a lot of body fat. The record, I think, is 380 days in that paradigm.
Wow.
Obviously, in the Brazilian paradigm, it would be different.
Yeah.
But usually people go like in Lauren Lockman Center, the average is 26 days on water, which seems crazy. And that's in a physical paradigm where he thinks if you keep going, at some point you starve and you die. So in that way, it's beneficial to cleanse, get rid of all mucus, of all things. And that's the paradigm I'm at the moment. I'm very open-minded to the Brazilian paradigm because I think anyway, everything around this construct and reality comes from mind and consciousness. And so ultimately, I think anything is possible. But I also think there's no rush and that we're in a specific timeline with specific natural laws that can evolve through consciousness, but that also can be changed just like this. I've tried. Levitate now. And that's perfect. So I think through this lifetime, we'll see a lot of I believe the planet is ascending, and I believe we'll go more to the more Brazilian paradigm, where it doesn't mean necessarily we totally stop eating, but where we get very energized by things like breathing and the sun, and where we eat more for pleasure. Let's call it Brazilian or pranic. I think the official definition of Brazilian is someone who doesn't need to eat or to eat very little, which is a very subjective definition. But let's say it's not about like getting a badge or something, but just feeling internally that you're, there's almost two layers. There's the emotional and the physical. But to me first, like to bring it back where I'm at now, I want to have more, let's say, control over how I eat and not feel like I numb anything when I eat. And I think I could eat way less doing that. And then, I'm interested to see how my body can shift towards getting more energy with less. But I'm also in no rush. So, it feels like it's stepping stones, but that as the frequencies are changing, that things might come in our consciousness, like, maybe we'll have a new friend. He comes and he's pranic mainly, and it's an apple every day, and he's ripped and strong, and that's going to change our reality. I'm open to that, but I think the next few years I'm more stabilizing my raw vegan, kind of fruitarian, healthy. I'm very happy like this.
I want to share one or two stories from Hilton Otema's book. I just picked it up this morning, and it's so crazy. There was one study they did with worms, and they like separated the group. Like one group was like eating regularly, and the other one they put them on regular fasts. So they were eating, and then there were fasting periods, and then they were eating. And the second group that fasted regularly lived, when I read that, I was like, so insane. They outlived the first group 19-1. So 19 generations of regular eating worms passed, like their birth and died and birthed and died until like the other group died. So that would mean like when you multiply like the average human lifespan in the Western world of around 80 years, that would mean like humans living for 1,500 years just because of regular fasting. And of course, that's like worms and we are humans. And but
that's the case also in books like Iltom or Temas. We're also meant to live thousands of years.
Yeah. That's it. His basic theory is like that early humans, when they were breatharians and they were not eating at all, they lived for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. And this is something that for our minds is not graspable. It's like, okay, how can that be? And that shows us probably how far away we are from living like in a natural state.
It's quite graspable for my mind. Like when I listen to Manzaya consciousness, I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What, not for you?
In a way, I was reminded of a potential truth, and at the same time, I was like, how does that fit into this world that I'm living in right now? Okay, I'm 33. I have a son. He's 18 months. How does it like? Will I have like hundreds of children over my lifetime, or will they grow so old as well? And how will that work? And that basically changes everything. That changes how you live, because when you think about, okay, maybe I'm living like thousands of years, there's no rush, there's no like I need to do anything now, because you have like so much time. And it's for me, it was really a reminder of, okay, put that in your current life circumstances, what would change, what would need to change. And and that was a nice mental experiment. Yeah, and he even says like that and he shares a lot of stories in the book of people who were like 200, 300 years old and so on. And I was not super deep into this topic of longevity before. And for me, I always, since I started eating raw vegan, I had this feeling of I will not die at 80. But there was more like, okay, maybe I will be 100 or 110, something like this. That was like my realm in which I lived. But this, blew everything, and it opened a lot of perspectives, and I found that very interesting. Yeah,
it was quite a mind-bending book in that way. I mean, it's interesting because, I'm really interested also in longevity, but at the same time, when you really go deep spiritually, like you become aware of your immortality, right? And that death as a transition. So even longevity, like how much does this body-mind changes over time? What do we mean by it? And so I almost feel that, I don't know, for me, I'm open to both. Let's put it this way. I have no attachment to this body and mind complex needed to keep going more and more, because I might be excited about what's next too. At the same time, for now, I'm very happy in it. And if you ask me, I'd be like, yeah, I'd love to do 10,000 years. Yeah. And so I think if life shows me opportunities to meet people, so my consciousness tunes into the timeline of living hundreds of years, thousands of years, it feels attractive to me. And ultimately, again, I think we've been breatharians before, and we'll have other times of being breatharian after, whether it's in this specific incarnation or not. And that makes it possible. And that also makes it potentially attractive, but there's no attachment to have for it too. So
I think it's quite easy to fall into a new dogma, like especially you see that a lot in the vegan or in the raw vegan scene, and people like, okay, this is like the holy grail, and you can have the same attitude towards Breatharianism, and you can really judge yourself for, oh no, now I ate too much, or I ate the cashew cheese or whatever. And I think it's really easy for all these different like beautiful directions of nourishing your body, but it's very easy to fall into some kind of eating disorders and judge yourself because this is good and this is not good. And this, I really like your playful and experimental attitude, and see, okay, I don't know what will emerge. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out, but no pressure.
Also, even if all this like living thousands of years seems very could seem very spiritual and ungrounded and these kind of things, even in a more like scientific paradigm of, let's say, the more mainstream, beliefs are really important and placebo effects are real.
Yeah.
So I do believe that, I have the things that attract me more to eat and that I believe in general serve more health of this timeline, which are more raw, more fruits. And at the same time, I believe so important what you think about what you eat, that I'm not surprised that some people get very satisfied, and I used to be one of them, eating something that we would consider junk food, and in the end be a UFC champion or a professional soccer player, while some people who are obsessed about what they eat and try to do it perfectly end up, that's one thing that's quite common around the cliche around raw vegans, that they're weak and have deficiency and all that.
And munching on their carrots and being like miserable because they only eat carrots all day. Yeah, I just want to share a story because you just mentioned like professional athletes. Parallel to me diving into Hilton Hotema's book, I watched a documentary on Netflix about the football team of FC Barcelona, and they like the whole season, the team was documented, like, of course, playing their matches, but as well like in the locker room, and then training and having meals together and coaching and like everything. And I really enjoy this format. But I found it so interesting. I saw these players, like what they were eating before matches, and it was like so much meat and so much like potatoes, and it was really dense food. Something that when I would imagine eating that and then going on the pitch and playing for 90 minutes and trying to win the Champions League, I would not be able to do that because my body would not thrive on that. And I was wondering, how can they, like they are at the top of their game, eat in such a way? And then I was again like reading Hilton Hotema's work, and the thought crossed my mind, okay, what if more and more people would be switching into the new paradigm? Like, which effect could that have on professional sports? And I was like, okay, imagine somebody completely crushing like everything everybody is believing in at age 58, becoming a professional football player after being on the breatharian journey for 20 years, and then having a 14-year career until age 98, and then quitting professional soccer playing, not because of like he's too old and he's not bringing it anymore, but because like, okay, now I want to do something different with my life, and I'm quitting, even though I'm still like really competitive, really, really good. And this thought really intrigued me because it opens your perspective, and it crushes like every perceived limit, especially in professional sports when you're like in your mid-20s already. Okay, now you need to like really go for it the next years, because then your career will be over, and you need to build your brand because you want to earn some money afterwards, and so on and so on. What if you could become a professional athlete at age 58? Who knows? And that was really fascinating. And of course, I don't have any answers yet, but I feel that so much more is possible when we completely question the way how we nourish our bodies.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. But why do you think are so many people who are into like high performance and sports and so on so not conscious of their of the way they eat. And I can't understand that, because for me, when I question one area of my life, I always tend to question all the other areas and check in. Okay, this is not an alignment. Okay, I need to question here and here and here and here. But yeah, and at the same time, there are more and more cases of like vegan athletes, and there's beautiful documentaries about that. And I think you interviewed a couple of those folks as well, right?
So with Game Changers?
Game Changers, yeah.
Can't remember if I've watched it a while ago, so I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it's interesting that we see more and more of these athletes, but at the same time, it's still not the main.
Yeah.
And I've had the same questions.
Yeah.
Whether it's too early and too little people.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my main explanation, is that I think we forget how extreme we look to the rest of the mainstream world. Like already being vegan is less and less, but it used to be very extreme. It's still quite extreme. I come from Paris. It's like when I stopped smoking, it was extreme.
Okay, you.
It's like don't even have a couple of cigarettes. That seems pretty extreme to me. and so raw. It's like there's very, very few people. Like I think of my, 1,000 people I would know from my first 23 years in Paris. Maybe 3 are vegans and 1 are raw vegans, but for us, because our consciousness is into it, we're more in it. But it's undeniable that it's more and more. More vegan restaurants and more vegan athletes. So we'll see. But maybe women to be the first Brazilian bodybuilders.
Be amazing. That would be. Imagine what really, really intrigues me are these stories of people who are with one leg still in the mainstream and with one leg in the new paradigm. When I got goosebumps when I listened to a podcast episode by Aubrey Marcus. He hosts like one of my favorite podcasts. I need to enjoy it a lot. And he interviewed Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the I think 2 or 3 years in a row he was the MVP of the NFL, like the American Football League, and he was the best player, and he was winning. Like he was the big star, like in football, like Lionel Messi. And in this podcast episode, he talked openly about his ayahuasca journey and all the transformations that he's undergoing right now. And then he did a 1 week in darkness retreat, and really like. I see this man on top of his game, and he's so spiritual and so connected and so like open to the new paradigm. And somebody like him talking publicly about these topics, I think that has such a tremendous effect, because it's possible to awaken so many people compared to some like weird person somewhere in the jungle doing some things where everybody in the mainstream is like, okay, that's a little bit off. But I feel it's more and more coming. And
it's perfect. It's the teamwork of consciousness, because maybe that person in the jungle has 2,000 subscribers, but maybe that guy Aaron Rodgers, maybe he's watching that guy's YouTube video, and then he becomes the bridge for millions of people doing it in a more balanced way.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel
perfect.
I feel the same with Hilton Otima. Like nobody like knows him. His books on Amazon have like 3 ratings or something. But it's important to spread these messages and building the bridge. And I think like podcasting, social media can be a nice tool for that.
It's really interesting when people talk about like extremes or balanced, because most people would consider themselves always balanced. I think I'm balanced because compared to someone who's more on the Brazilian path, I eat a lot. I'm more around like my macros, and I still get some protein and get drops of B12 or these kind of things. But of course, to many people, I'm already super extreme, because they would think a vegetarian is extreme. So we all and in our consciousness, we generally debalance, like the perfect balance.
It's always this dance of you are in your like in your center of gravity, something feels normal for you. You feel in balance, and then you do one experiment, and you do one tiny shift, and you go on a water fast, or you try leaning more towards raw, or you get your groceries at the organic farmer's market and not at the supermarket. You do a small shift, and that feels like, oh, crazy and interesting and fascinating, at the same time challenging. How do I do that? And it's interesting. After I went back to raw vegan again, and then I dove into Hilton Hotima's work, and I started drinking juices more and more. Although I was eating less, I like nutrition played a bigger role in my life, because I still needed to figure things out, because before it was an autopilot. Okay, I got the poke bowl for dinner and everything, the smoothie bowl for breakfast. It was just like autopilot. And then I made a change, and that required more like headspace and more capacity and more figuring out and more trying. And okay, a couple of days ago, last time we met, we had this conversation. I found that so beautiful. That we ordered food from nice raw vegan restaurant, and then like the whole table was full of food, and everybody was, oh my god. And then you said, oh, that's nice, but I like my salad more. Like, because you sense that the more clean and the more simple you eat, the better you feel. And then a couple of days ago, I think it was 2 days ago, my son was with me here. I was lying in bed in the evening. For dinner, I had coconut meat. Like really clean dinner. But the coconut meat of coconuts, they were quite mature, so the meat was pretty intense.
Oily, fatty.
Yeah, and I ate a lot of it because I liked it so much. But then I was lying in bed, and I was feeling really because compared to when I usually eat like really watery, maybe for dinner only papaya or only juices, the coconut meat was quite a big ask for my digestion. I was lying in bed, and I didn't have a lot of energy, and I was really tired after dinner. And the next morning I woke up and was like, ugh. And at the same time, it was such a beautiful experience. At the same time, my son was laying next to me, and during the whole night, like every half an hour or every hour, he woke up and he was crying, and he was not feeling well because of for breakfast, when we were in the kitchen together, I was juicing, and he always reached out to the dates, and he wanted to have the dates, and he loves the dates so much. And from time to time I give him some dates, but mostly I looked that he's eating like more whole fruits and not so many dried things. But he wanted the dates, and in the past I ate a lot of dates as well. And he really ate quite a bunch of it, and he was not feeling well because of having eaten so many dates, and me because of the coconut meat. And then I zoomed out, and I imagine like telling this story to like ordinary human beings, and they are okay. That's like only dates or only coconut meat. That's so far out of the like the normality of people who are having, like me in the past, just like cereal and milk and pancakes for breakfast or whatever.
I had this cheat meal of steamed carrot.
And these conversations, they are like so hilarious when you compare that to where most people are at. And at the same time, I find it so beautiful, because I realize, okay, my body gives me really clear directions. Okay, for dinner, don't eat so late. Don't eat so like dense food. Eat more lightly. And then yesterday for dinner, I had only jackfruit. Yeah. And when I went to bed, I was still feeling like energized. This morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. before my son. I sit in meditation before he woke up, and I was feeling like, oh my God, I'm the king of the world.
I have a question though. How much do you think it could also be linked to your belief that you had eaten too much coconut meat?
Actually not, because I didn't have this belief.
Okay.
In this evening, I was like, oh, because I think the day before for dinner, I had all sorts of nuts and then raw sweet potato and this and that. And I was eating like many things that I found in the kitchen.
Raw sweet potato?
Raw sweet potato, yeah. Yeah. And actually, I like the taste of raw sweet potato. You haven't tried it?
No.
It's good. It's really, it's the better carrot. It's amazing. And this evening before, when I had like almonds and sweet potato and this and this and that. I was not feeling good the next morning, and I woke up and was like, okay, today only mono meals. And today I will have only coconut meat for dinner, and I will feel amazing. Okay. But I didn't feel amazing. So I think it's not a belief thing, but there is such thing as a placebo. I totally agree on that. But it's always an invitation to sense into your body, and that's the best indicator for me. Like, what really energizes you?
There is a big inconvenience though of the eating watery fruits. Is you need to pee.
You cannot sleep.
No, I need to pee right.
You need to pee. Go. Let's do a pee break.
Do you drink water? Because I know some like more fruitarians don't drink.
That's a good question. Right now, I only drink coconut water. Because of the 2 juices I drink, because I have no space for water in my day. Yeah. Because I'm having 1 coconut in the morning. I share that with my son. Like, he is having 300 milliliters, and I am having 600-700, whatever is left. And then 1 coconut in the evening. And then during the day, I have these like 2 big juices, 1 red juice with coconut and carrot and so on in the morning, and then the green juice later. And then in the afternoon, some fruits, and I don't want to eat. And it's so interesting that you ask this question, because when I transitioned to raw vegan back in 2010, I don't know where, but in some book, I read that when you transition to raw vegan, it's not necessary to drink water. And then I didn't drink any water for, I think, 2 years or something. I was living in Germany. I didn't drink even coconut water. So I was only having these like fruits and veggies, and I was feeling perfectly fine without drinking anything. And then I met a woman, and she was eating raw vegan as well. And she asked me, "Oh, so you don't drink any water?" But it's very important to drink water. And I didn't even question that, because she was like an authority in this field. And then I started drinking water again. But now I realized, but yeah, coconut water is. But how is it for you?
At the moment, I still drink water when I feel like it. Obviously, if I have like 3 coconuts in the day, I definitely don't feel the need for it and eat fruits. But there's moments when coconut water feels too sweet. What you shared with the bananas and the tomatoes. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want coconut water right now. I just want water. So I listen to the body, and sometimes it feels really good to get water, especially if I work out more, I sweat more.
Yeah, that's true. And last week I played football with the locals, and then I drank 1.5 liters of water because I just needed to like refill for all the sweating. But let's dive into this topic for a second. I think most people are not aware of the quality of their water. Especially like in Germany, you open the tap and you drink the water, and that's how like everybody does that. How is it for you? What kind of water do you drink?
I drink. The brand's called Keren, is basically spring water that's filtered, so it's less particles per million. I have a TDS, total dissolves something to measure. So it's more distilled than most of the springs here. But it's not. At some point, I was into distilled water, especially after reading Man's Higher Consciousness. And where I'm at the moment is, I think distilled water is amazing. It's just pure water.
Can you share a little bit about distilled water? Because I think for many people there's this misconception that it's toxic and that it will kill you and something.
Okay. Well, distilled water is just water that you boil, and then goes back into its water form, so it doesn't have any minerals. Like when water goes into springs in the ground, it collects some minerals. Is that good? Yeah, and so distilled water is totally fine. I've seen people who have been drinking it for 40 years. They look very healthy, and at the same time, I've followed people who drink good spring waters for 40 years, and they look very healthy. So that's where I'm at. This distilled water is great. Spring water is great. When I fasted, I used rainwater, which is actually, it's kind of like the problem with distilled is boiled. So then from the paradigm more energetical, because I'm in those 2 paradigms. I'm in the physical and the more spiritual, energetical. And energetically, there's something that feels a bit violent with boiling, and then it comes back.
Okay.
It feels to me like it loses prana.
Okay.
When God does it through the water evaporating, it's not boiling. The sea isn't boiling. So this is way more gentle, and then it comes back through the clouds in rain. In, if it's not polluted, most like something that has very low particles, like very close to distilled water. But that's not through a boiling process. So the same as
So distilled water gets boiled. Distilled water gets
distilled
boiled.
water usually, yeah, it gets boiled because otherwise it would take what does happens on the ocean is it takes like days and days to get your water evaporating if you don't boil it, right? So you want to boil it. And to me, it's a little bit similar to fruit on a tree gets the sun for months, and that's how it's kind of. It's not really a cooking process, but I like to joke that it's almost slow cooked by the sun. And then we take things and we cook them. Yeah. And then we take things and we cook them because we want to cook them in 10 minutes. It's not the same. So I've been feeling a bit the same with distilled. I think it's totally fine to drink distilled. But the place I was at for fasting, they had rainwater stored in clay tanks. So there was a little bit of clay. And then I put it in a jar with shungat, which removes EMF and cleanse energetically. And then I put them on a glass, and there was sacred geometry and blessings, so I tried to make it this way. But I think they're all fine.
Like they collected the rainwater.
Yeah, they collect in a big water tank. Wow, so they do at that place. But in my everyday life, if I come here, if you give me Balian's okay, but like Keren or good spring water, I'll have it. If you give me distilled, I'll have it. Reverse osmosis and stuff I might, but yeah, of course, if I live in Paris, I will not drink the tap water. I come with my water here because most of Balinese, they drink aqua, and I believe there's fluoride. I don't want to drink that, so I'm a little bit picky, but I'm not like crazy and want distilled spring.
Yeah. But that's so good that you mentioned it, especially like here in Bali, because obviously you cannot drink the tap water, and then they are selling these like 20-liter gallons. And for me, it's like two things. It's first of all, the quality of the water is like really bad. And for years and years, when I came to Bali, I was always drinking this kind of water. And now over the past months, the more sensitive I got and the less of it I drank, now when I'm drinking it, it tastes really bad. Have you noticed that?
Which water?
The aqua.
Oh yeah.
When I get a sip of it, it tastes it tastes like dead. And it tastes like metal, and I just don't want to drink it. Yeah. And I think this is something that maybe everybody like who's drinking still like regular tap water in regions of the world where that is possible, try that out. Don't drink it. Drink distilled water, fruit juice, whatever, and then try it again. Maybe you will have the same experience. I really sense, wow, it's off.
That's always the best advice, is to be curious and to experiment and to take a break of something and go back to it and have that understanding.
Yeah. Hilton Otima says like his two recommended main sources of water are rainwater in regions that are not polluted, which is, of course, if you're living in Paris and you collect the rainwater, I don't know how good of a quality that is, or in Berlin or in New York or wherever you're living in the big city, but that's why I love his work, because it's so integrated. He basically says, and I know it's a very controversial claim, but he basically says, if you want to live like a really good, he even says like a perfect life and perfect health, you need to get rid of everything that is standing between you and this perfect health. And he says, what is standing between you and the perfect health is everything that we call civilization, like cities, like the way we eat, the way we like sit in cars and in front of laptops all day, and live and sleep in enclosed rooms where the air quality is bad, and toxic relationships. And basically, if you zoom out, we need to question all the areas of our lives when we dive into that.
And that's why it's tricky, because going back to the beliefs, and I mean, in some people's perception, that's totally where I'm at. I don't think it is, but this is like feeling that everything is around to like kill you, basically. Then it's like you're driving, there's a bit of pollution, and like, oh no, I'm gonna die. And there was a bit of, I don't know, the tomatoes were cleaned with aqua water in the restaurant. And of course, not my preference. I don't clean my vegetable. I clean my vegetable with better water. But if it's gonna happen, like, let it slide, and not being too strict, because then that very belief is gonna be way more harmful than the actual thing. And it's just not nice to live in a world where you feel everything is there to, is going to be bad for your health.
Yeah. I totally agree with your point, and at the same time, like, there's you can be mistaken on the side of okay, I worry too much, and that's why I have a shitty existence because my carrot was not organic. But at the same time, you can be on the other side of, if I believe everything is good, then everything is good, and then I can eat the candy and the pizza and whatever, and it's good because I believe it's good.
Yeah.
I think it's an invitation to find your balance, but so I'm strongly I'm right now strongly on the trajectory of really becoming aware of the impact of everything around me, and feeling it's something that for the past years when I was living in Bali I didn't feel, but now when I'm taking a scooter ride to Denpasar, to the main city to get something, like a couple of weeks ago I got my headphones repaired and I went there. I was sitting on the scooter for an hour in huge traffic, and I came back and I was really exhausted because I felt the bad air quality because of everything that was going on, and I didn't feel that in the past. And of course, I don't serve myself with sitting at home for 3 days and judging myself, why did you went there, and so on and so on. And at the same time, asking myself the question, how can I create a life more and more where I'm not doing that?
Yeah.
And when I'm doing that, when the carrots are being washed with when the tomatoes are being washed with the bad quality of water, it's okay. But I want to move more and more in the direction where this thing happens like less and less often, I think.
And I'm laughing because now I'm telling you this, but I imagine like my partner or friends of mine hearing this, and be like they find me so obsessed because I'm actually doing exactly what you're talking about, But again, it's like, it's a perspective, because maybe to me right now in that conversation, you might be the mirror of myself that goes even a little bit more into that purity.
Yeah.
But then the very thing you say is the thing I say to people who are a little bit less into that.
Yeah.
And I'm totally doing that. I want to grow my fruits. I'm very intentional about what I put in my body, who I have around me, all these things. So
I think it all comes down to the awareness that we are on the journey. And of course, it's about improvement, it's about alignment, it's about purification, and it's about patience, and it's about giving yourself the time and not being hard on yourself, and still recognizing, hey, maybe I have a couple of thousand of years left. I don't need to rush anything. Yeah. How is that for you? Like, because many people, and I know that from myself, when you go into raw vegan, when you go into like more and more pure kind of feeding your body, are there any like cravings that you have for food where your mind tells you, oh, that's not good for you, but your body is like, oh, I want to have that, or I want to have more than I maybe I'm full after 6 bananas, but they taste so good, that's why I eat 10. And then later I'm like, oh, well, maybe that was too much. Like, where are you on this right now?
Yeah, for me, it's been a very natural evolution from having things I would crave and then crave less and less and stop. Starting with things like smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol, which I used to do in big quantities, and eating at McDonald's, these kind of things. So these things were the first ones to be removed. And then became the coffee, and then became the animal product. And then today, one of my judgments of myself might be like, I had a few too many bananas. No? There was too many nuts, whatever. On cooked food or these kind of things. So the thing I've noticed in my quite steady evolution on my food journey is there are things, coffee is a really good example. I started needing quite a bit of discipline. I used to have like maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 coffees a day, like 2 to 4 coffees a day when I was working in Australia. And I got into the idea that it wouldn't be good for me. It was the caffeine. It was mine, but also body-based. I could feel I needed that kick all the time for energy. So I reduced and required some discipline. And at some point when I was here in Bali, I would go maybe once a week, and then it became once a month. I'd go to Uluwatu, I'd have a good surf. I was like, oh, you know what? I deserve the good coffee. I'd go to Suka and have my espresso and love it. And one day I was coming back from my surf. I was like, oh, I can have a nice coffee. And I was like, actually, I don't want a coffee. And a year and a half ago was my last coffee. I was surfing in Sumbawa. I was like, had been 3 months maybe. I was like, yeah, I'll try again. And I tried and it was good. So,
Wasn't it good, like taste-wise, or was it delicious, but your body sensed it's not good for you?
you know, like some of it was nice. Like the smell was nice. Taste was okay, but not so good. The feeling of drinking it wasn't so good. And going 3 times to the bathroom, in the 10 minutes following wasn't so good. And the feeling of agitation from the caffeine, so good. I'm more sensitive to a lot of the things. And now it comes with things like salts and oils. And, can be raw vegan, add salt. But to me, that's part of the things that I don't tolerate as much. So I do have some cravings, but when I fasted, I had that wouldn't call it a craving. It was more like a mind fantasy. Like it's like day now of the fast, and like I'm like, oh, I want a ham. So ham was grilled with pickled cucumbers and vinegar. But that's totally emotional and memory that's comes. And sometimes you say when you fast, actually, there's the consciousness of maybe the things that were stored in your body.
Oh, you did the enema and then the ham.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's hard to know exactly what it is, but it could be. And it wasn't something I really wanted. It was just like some kind of fantasy from the kind of meals I would have in France with my family. So now my cravings would be more like, okay, if we had like vegan cheese there, it'd be like I'd have a bit, and then I'm like, yeah, I want a bit more, and then I'd eat a bit too much, and I would feel like, okay, that was a little bit too much. I really try to truly feel my body, and to go with what the body wants, not in a bullshit approach like, my body wants a bag of cookie. I don't think your body wants that, bro. But like really chilling. Okay, maybe now, like for example, I label myself mainly as raw vegan, but if I go to a restaurant, I'm like, oh, that feels really nice to have steamed vegetables. I'll have steamed vegetables and I'll enjoy them, and I won't feel guilty about it.
Yeah. That's so beautiful how you're putting that, because my journey is.
And just before that, the only thing I'm a little bit more strict on from the mind is the things that create suffering. So, for example, factory farm.
Got it.
Eggs.
Got it. But it's interesting. Like, I never had cravings of animal products after eating raw vegan. It's so interesting. Like, no cheese, no like dairy, nothing. The only craving that I had from the beginning on when I was eating raw vegan was bread. Bread was for me such a hard one. It was. I always like, oh, I want to have a sandwich right now. Oh, that would be so good with avocado and everything. Bread was hard, but I substituted bread with nuts, and in the beginning I ate a lot of nuts.
But that for me too. But how is it now? Because now to me it feels quite really dry.
Yeah. Okay, I have like no craving at all for bread. No.
Yeah, I told you with the coffee, I had the same. There's a vegan bakery in Ubud. The banana. Madis banana flour cafe. At first I was like having those chocolate croissants.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You would say it was like once a week, once a month. Yeah. I don't even think about it.
Yeah. But I love the journey of trial and error. Like these stories with the coconut meat at night or whatever. I think that's when you can approach your journey with the tolerance for trying things out and afterwards realizing, like with your coffee, you were 3 months without coffee, and then after the surf you had the coffee, and you were like, okay, actually that's not so good, and see that as a success, see that as, okay, nice, wow, I made an experience, because it can be so hard, it can be so...
It feels like self-love.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it really feels like self-love when I listen to the body and give it. And maybe self-love sometimes is having a steamed carrot.
Yeah. It's a constant discovery and trying something else and trying something out and sensing, does it work, does it not work? And it's different from time to time. But the longer I'm on the journey, the more my body really appreciates that. Like, for me, there is like nothing better than just before you arrived, I had a papaya that was growing like next door on the property. I harvested it myself 4 days ago, and since I harvested it, every morning I got up, I went to the kitchen and I was looking at this papaya. Is it already ripe? Oh no, let's have it sit. Let's leave it for one more day, and then one more day, and then one more day. And today I was like, okay, now the papaya is perfect. And I opened it and I put my spoon in it and I tried it, and it was the best thing I've ever had in my life. This papaya. But that's something you can only really appreciate after quite some steps on the journey, because before you compare the papaya with the chocolate candy bar, and of course it's not as sweet because your taste buds are adjusted to something different.
Lower stimulation.
Yeah. But for me, like, now the papaya is the highest stimulation ever. It's so sweet, and then the seeds are like a little bit like bitter and spicy, and it's so good.
So now you can imagine after 14 days on water. What
was the first one you ate after the 14 days? Was it?
Yes, the property I was on, they were growing papayas. So I got that papaya from a tree that was ripe, I think it was the day before. It had a hole already because the bats had started. So that's the sign when you need to take the papaya off the tree. Yeah. And kept it in my room for like 24 hours, knowing it was the chosen one. Oh. And then had just a tiny bit because the appetite takes a few days to come back. But yeah, it was... it's going to be part of the documentary to see me have the most incredible gratitude for that piece of papaya and life giving us that sweetness. The water I was drinking tasted really sweet. That was the end.
Wow, I can so imagine. I want to see the documentary.
Brother, there's something I'm curious about is your... If something you're willing to talk about is your ex-partner, the mother of your child, also on that vegan or raw vegan path, and how does it play also with your child? Because I know that can be a tricky topic. It's one thing to be with a partner and be like, okay, do what you want, find things, but then how are we going to feed the child?
Of course, I'd love to talk about that. One thing before, I think, even if you're not having children together, I strongly sense that the more space you share with another human being, be it in a relationship, be it with your parents when you're living at home or whatever, like, every frequency that is around you has an impact on you. And when you are like sharing intimate space with each other, it has a strong impact on you. So that's something that I get more and more sensitive. And that's why it was really hard, because when we got together, she was vegan since 2 years or something. I don't remember, and it was always clear for us that we are eating vegan together. And then after 3 weeks of us being together, she was pregnant, and because of the changes in her body, she had such strong cravings for non-vegan things, for seafood, a lot of craving for seafood, and a couple of other things. And then when she had like a strong craving, I was Googling, okay, what are the ingredients of seafood in pregnancy, and what do you need? And then I said to her, oh, you can have some almonds instead. They have the same ingredients.
Oh, one I read, okay. Well, I have some spinach.
And she was like, fuck you, I don't want to see almonds. I want to have seafood. We were in France we were in France, south of France, and we're like surfing, and there's like seafood everywhere. And then one day she was like, "We need to go to the seafood place," and I was going with her and then checking the menu, and saw that there's literally not one item on the menu that I could eat as a vegan. There was like nothing. And then we said, okay, let's check out another seafood place. And then we found the seafood place, and they had, what was that? I think a curry or something really unusual. Like they had a vegan menu, and there was just like one dish. And I was, okay, let's go to this. And you have this big seafood plate, and I eat my curry. And afterwards, it was so interesting. She enjoyed eating this 2-person seafood platter. But afterwards, when we were at home, she was regretting it so much because she felt like it's so bad for her body, and at the same time like this ethical things, and she really regretted it. But still, during the pregnancy, she ate like animal products every now and then because she felt it's necessary. And for me, it was hard because I like, in her body, our son was developing and being nourished by the food that I wouldn't put in my body, but knowing that he will be nourished by that. And it was hard, but at the same time, what can I do? If I judge her, if I like force her to anything, it's even worse. So I was like, okay, you do your thing and you make your experiences. And then after the birth, I thought like, okay, she nourished this human being inside her body, and then she can go back to she can go back to vegan, but she didn't want to, and now she's like basically eating regular diet. When we spend time together, she likes eating vegan things as well. Or when we are at Sayuri's, she likes the raw vegan salmon sandwich so much. But then at the same time, she sometimes eats the cheeseburger with French fries. And it was difficult for me during the relationship because I sensed that it's both not good for me and not good for her and not good for our son. And at the same time, who am I to judge that? She's on her path, and that was especially difficult for me because of Lionel, of course. Because when he's with her and they're having like breakfast at a restaurant, and she's having the chocolate croissant, and then she's giving a little piece of that to Lionel, and I say like, hey, that's not good for his body, and she's like, it's only a small piece, and then I'm, yeah, but still, and it's an invitation for me to let go. But the beautiful thing is that Lionel's body always tells us what is good for him or not. I told the story with the dates. There are so many different stories when they were eating out, and then she had a vegan lentil curry, and she was feeding him the lentil curry, and then he had like diarrhea for the next 2 days because of the lentil curry. Because when he's with me, then he's having jackfruit for dinner or coconut meat or whatever. So his body is still so pure, and it always tells like what is right and what is off. And I see myself in the position of just observing what is happening and sharing that with her. And then I said to her, hey, when I picked him up from your place, then he was not feeling well, and his nose was running, and da-da-da-da-da. And then after 3 days, his energy was on fire, and his nose was not running anymore, and we had this for dinner. Hey, that's my suggestion. Let's feed him in a raw vegan way. And that totally resonates with her, and she's trying to more and more put a focus on that for him. And that's beautiful to see. And you begin your question with do you think she's on this path as well or not? I think she's totally on this path. I think one day she will nourish her body maybe in the same way that I'm doing it, but not now. And that's a journey, and that's fine. When I compare that to how I ate like the majority of my life, I was eating way worse, and I'm still okay, and I'm still thriving, and I'm still feeling good. And I think it's a journey. And it always comes down to finding this balance of pushing, because you realize that some things are better for your body and some things are worse, and at the same time, like I would say, pushing with patience. That's what I try to do. Like really, really move in the direction, but not being tense and not judging like neither myself or somebody else.
It's beautiful that you did your best to stay in that place of acceptance.
Yeah, yeah. But sure, with children, it gets more and more difficult. Like even thinking about giving him to some kind of kindergarten with normal kids who are for lunch having things that I wouldn't give him, and he's super curious, and he goes there and he wants to try everything. And when some of the other children has a candy bar, he wants to try the candy bar, and then it's not good for his body. And that's what I said earlier. For me, like the only sensible thing is reinventing all areas of your life and building a beautiful community in the middle of nature, and doing almost everything differently, and create a safe space where that is easy, where the papayas are growing next door. When I would live in Paris or in Berlin, of course I would eat differently, and I would nourish my body differently, and I would think differently, and it needs a paradigm shift. That's what's becoming more and more obvious for me.
That's where we came here.
That's why we came here. Super excited for everything that will unfold. Yeah. Besides everything that we just talked about, what is something that is really alive in yourself right now? What is really present? Is there anything that you want to dive in?
Yeah. What's really present for me at the moment, because I'm in a space which I feel we're aligning on, of that kind of Shiva space of purifying the body, purifying the mind through meditation, taking a lot of time, and for me it coincides with my partner being away for 2.5 months, being in Europe and being the more Shakti vibes of traveling and being social and partying, and she's also like in our lifestyle, so it's not the hardcore parties and all that, but still a more stimulated life. And yeah, it's been a question for me of where, and anyway, I don't need to answer it. I just need to follow life and be in the present moment. But what's alive for me is feeling into how good I feel in that space of centeredness and calm, versus how beautiful life is also to be social and dance and relax. And yeah, maybe let's stay up until 2 a.m. and sing. Not like getting drunk and stuff, but like, okay, we had a bit of cacao and sing medicine songs until 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Or go to ecstatic dance a bit later, or go to Sayuri's and have a little bit too much food. And like, I think that's been, I've been experiencing some of the death of those things, and I'm interested in, how what life brings to me in terms of, am I going towards more of that discipline, knowing that I know my path isn't the one of them.
Doesn't you feel like discipline? That's interesting.
No, it doesn't actually.
For me neither.
It doesn't, but part of me is a little bit resistant to letting go of something. So, for example, we're talking a lot about the food. It's like, how sensitive am I gonna eat? Is it gonna be that now if I have a bit too much coconut flesh, I feel bad? Is it gonna be that now I can't go to Moxa with my partner anymore? There's everything down on the menu, and a bit too salty, too oily, too cheap, cooked to this.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be that it makes it really hard to travel because I don't want to be in an airport, I don't want to be on a plane and being sprayed with whatever? Am I gonna be able to survive in Paris? All these things. So tuning into like that purity doesn't feel like discipline, but it does feel like an alienation process with some of the things I'm maybe not ready to let go of. That's been alive for me. Answers.
Yes.
What's that?
Yeah, that's something that I'm really pondering. Yep. I think the longer you continue to stay on your path towards consciousness and towards like questioning reality and making adjustments that feel more aligned for you, the less compatible you are with standard reality. That's totally true.
And that's why we're excited about building the new reality, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
ultimately we want community, we want to fit in, but we don't want to compromise purity for that.
That's such a big one because like we are social animals. We thrive when we are, I think, like the best papaya in the world, like homegrown, organic, whatever, is nothing against a real deep, meaningful conversation and a big hug and being together.
So try a papaya after doing some water.
Okay, it has some advantages. But of course, what really nourishes us like long term, because the papaya is finished after 15 minutes, because like what really nourishes us is these deep connections with people who are completely aligned with you. And
I mean, again, like to me, I don't know, I'm not saying it's better or something, but actually a lot of my very deep relationship are also with nature, with the sun and with the papaya. It was a love, it was a love making.
I can totally relate, like picking this papaya and then waiting for 4 days every morning, like, is it today? No, it's not today.
No,
will we have a date tomorrow? Okay, no, maybe the day afterwards.
I actually let the papaya choose the end of my fast. I was like, when you're ready.
That's so beautiful.
If it took a day more to be ready, I would have fasted another day. If it took 4 more days, I would have chosen papaya. You're not the chosen one anymore.
You should write a book about that.
She could have extended a day or two. But anyway, without comparing, I totally agree. I'm a social person, and it's really important to me.
Yeah. And that's like in the beginning when I started eating raw vegan, I was still in the social setting of the, like, I would say old me. I was still like going out with my friends, playing football, partying, PlayStation, whatever. And I was still drinking in the beginning. I was still drinking alcohol like once or twice a week. And then
trying not to be extreme.
But I was like, I enjoy that. And just because I changed my diet, maybe do I need to give this up? Maybe not. And then I was like, okay, before I could drink a lot, and now I cannot drink a lot because my body is so pure. And then I had a lot of like nuts before we went out, just to be able to finish like 2 cocktails. And it was
that
crazy.
cocktail raw?
Maybe not. But then I had one evening with my brother, and we were like, okay, let's do something crazy. We make a raw vegan smoothie with mango and pineapple, and then we put some like different alcohols in it, and then it is more healthy. It could be like a blend of both worlds. So I strongly sense that the longer I'm on this journey, the less compatible I'm with like ordinary reality. And
by the way, I had this idea of a cocktail bar with like vodka, chia seeds, and blueberry, turmeric, healthy.
I think there's definitely a target group for that. There's definitely a target group. You could create different stages. Like you could have this like vodka, cranberry, chia seeds, and blueberry. And then when you continue longer on this path and you don't drink alcohol, you can just change the vodka to like more papaya, and then you have a
more kale.
More kale. And then in the end, it's just water. The end stage.
Maybe just air.
Yeah, just air.
Here's your glass of air.
And some places in the world where they would like sell clean like mountain air. A couple of days ago when I did my hike to Mount Patucaro, and I was breathing the air like in 2,300 meters of altitude when I woke up in the morning after my 2 hours of sleep, and then sitting in meditation and breathing. The quality of the air, it was tremendous. And then a couple of days later, we went to Jakarta, to the capital. Because we had an appointment at the embassy, and we stayed at a hotel. And it was so crazy. I woke up in the morning, my nose was fully blocked. I felt like I cannot breathe because the air was so stagnant. Of course, there was an air condition, but we couldn't turn on the air condition because it was so bad quality and so loud. And still, like, air condition is not beneficial for your body. But I really sensed that in this big city, I cannot breathe properly compared to. This is something else that Notima talks about a lot, about like the quality of air being so much higher in higher altitude regions. A couple of months ago, when we traveled to Europe, we stayed for a couple of weeks in Austria, and I really like the Alps and like hiking there, and the air quality. Bali is perfect, but like this fresh mountain air is beautiful. That's why I enjoyed the hike.
There's mountains here too.
Yeah.
As you said, in Batu Kharu.
Yeah. Batu Kharu was like the one place right now for really building something is over there, because the nature is so lush, and they are growing like all these great organic farms where you can order. They are like in this region. Yeah. But yeah, how did we arrive at this point? Losing compatibility with current reality. And that's recently I dove into the work of Daniel Schmachtenberger, and he talks a lot about because everybody is asking the question, what do we need to change in order to change the world? Everybody's looking for, okay, maybe we need this, maybe we need to fight climate change, maybe everybody needs to go on psychedelics in order to awaken, maybe everybody needs to change their diet, maybe we need to like rescue dolphins, whatever. But he says we need change on 3 different levels. He talks about the infrastructure and the social structure and the superstructure. The infrastructure being things like really like physical things that surround us, like for example the kind of houses that we inhabit, and the infrastructure being things like governance or how we set up our companies, and the superstructure is our beliefs, like religion, spirituality, and so on. And when we only change something on one of these different dimensions, it falls short of creating the change that we're looking for, because it's too one-sided. We cannot, and I think like the topic that we are discussing is trying to evolve into your highest version in the old infrastructure setting. Maybe a bad idea. Like imagine living in the middle of Paris or in Jakarta and trying to become a breatharian. I think it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea because maybe you will die instantly because of the bad quality of air, because you've gotten so sensitive and your body can't tolerate that. So I think we need changes on all 3 levels in order to make it work.
And there's totally different paths on this. I was actually really surprised. Some of the, at least on the more influencer YouTube scene, a lot of the the big fruitarians with the following, they're actually in big cities.
Really?
Like Eli Martyr, Freeman Societies in Canada, and there's like a few in the US, like Brian Mirabella in New York.
Really, they're living in
and also a
city. Wow.
Yeah. And also a friend of mine told me after his fast, he could eat cashews, which he couldn't eat before. So sometimes it allows to hear something that makes you able to eat something.
Interesting.
But there's different paths.
Interesting. Sure. Maybe. I think it's about that's a very interesting question. I think in a certain way, the more you come into alignment with yourself, and the more your body develops real like strength, the more you can tolerate. And in another way, the less you can tolerate. So I would say, like regarding food, the more pure I get, the less I can tolerate food that is not good for me. But like some person on the street yelling at me and being angry at me or whatever, I have this feeling that the more I come into alignment with me, the better I can handle or deal with emotions of other people, because I'm more like centered inside myself. And that's what in this dimension I would feel that it's possible for me to handle more.
Yeah.
But what really has, like, really comes into my body, like the air or the food or the water, there I become less tolerant of.
It's like how we become sensitive enough that we can track these things and smart about it and notice them, and at the same time not be so sensitive that it destroys us straight away. It's an interesting balance.
I think that has a lot to do with your spiritual connection, because you can change your diet and you can change the way you treat your body, but still be purely in this three-dimensional world. And maybe one thing, and then I'm curious what you want to say. But for me, the whole magic unfolds when we bring these two worlds together. Because recently I watched a documentary about the Vietnamese teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, and he built this beautiful monastery in France, and he was living there in nature and really like beautiful setting. And then they traveled to New York City. Have you watched it?
No.
Do you know the story? Then they traveled to New York City, because they said we want to make this more accessible to more people. And then he was being on big stages and talking, and he wanted to spread this. And from what I have witnessed, this doesn't have any effect on him. Like being in a subway or breathing this bad quality of air, or being in contact with all these people who are insurgent, who are lost and whatever, because he was so centered within himself. He could live there, I would really say. But
alchemize him.
Yeah, but because of his like really strong spiritual connection, I think that is really possible. But I think he cannot thrive on eating cheeseburgers every night. I think this won't be possible, no matter how strong your spiritual connection is. But I don't know.
I think it's possible, but I think it requires a very, very high level of alchemy, which in a way, like they would be weirdly compatible.
Why would you do that?
Yeah. I just know people around me in the raw vegan community, sometimes they feel so sensitive to many things, and it's their gift too. It's beautiful, but for me, it's not attractive right now. I feel like, there's a 4G tower 100 meters from here, so I can't live here, and that's perfect for them. But like, I'm trying also to build that alchemy. But like, okay, I can travel. Okay, I can have can hold the phone in my hand, and it's okay. Kind of things. That might change. One thing I wanted to rebound on also with Daniel Schummerberger. I've listened to him a few years ago. I think it was on Rebel Wisdom, and from what I remember, really brilliant, like but quite intellectual. It's I think it's really interesting what he shares, and I'd love to listen about it. But I can tell you the first thing that popped in my mind, you said how you can change the world, is, to me, the first thing that comes is change yourself. And I was reminded of how living here in Bali, in a way, I'm totally externally creating the new paradigm. Like I'm very aware of how the old paradigm is and what we create, but I'm also aware of how much I already live in the new paradigm. And I've never eaten so much organic food, and I've never had so many conscious people around me, and I've never had if you go on the full year, breathed so much pure air as I do, and and all the things that, so many of the things that are like new paradigm, I'm already living them, right? And so it's an interesting balance of creating that new world and realizing that it's always been there, and it's just been waiting for your consciousness to tune into that frequency. And it's always an interesting dance of creating and manifesting, and at the same time just realizing that it's already there, you're ready for it.
That's well said. That's really well said. I think we can get lost in the search for the answer, and be a lifelong seeker, and still don't find what we are really seeking, because we are always seeking on the outside. And like, I think many people in this, like, let's change the world and let's do something, and a lot of that is still driven by, we need to fix something on the outside, like the big corporations, they need to change. We need to change the economic system. We need to change this. We need to change that, and COVID. And you can get like so lost in so many like external things. While at the same time, what you said, like the new paradigm is accessible just in the way you treat yourself, and you be, and you like, you can, even if you're living in the worst possible conditions, you can start your day with a 1 hour meditation. It's possible. You can just do that. You can just fast. You don't need anything to fast. So,
and look at, if I look at my life, for example, just very simply, if I don't like watch the news or things like this, the world around me is pretty vegan. Like, my household, we eat raw vegan. If I go somewhere socially in Ubud, we go to the vegan restaurants. We go to Sayuri's, to Zest, and so that world, is already there. And there's a lot of other things, but because we want the food, that have shifted this way.
Yeah, but there's one thing that I would question. I think that, and on this point, I really love Daniel Schmachtenberger's work, because he's really really precise on question, like the impact of everything that you're doing, like asking yourself the question, the house that you're living in right now, with like, who built that, with which kind of energy, how did these people like nourish their bodies, were they happy while they built the house, like all
they might have sacrificed the chicken they like to do here under the house.
All the materials, like really questioning the effects of everything that you're doing, like traveling by plane, and driving around with a scooter, and even like I have an electric scooter, but even there, like, okay, the electric scooter, the batteries were built with some like rare earth minerals. Is that even better than a gasoline scooter? I don't know. Of course, it would be better to just walk, but then if we would just walk, we couldn't have met, because we I don't know, 3-hour walk or whatever.
Do your best.
It's a process, and at the same time, what really intrigues me right now is really questioning a lot, and questioning a lot what's really going on, but see that as a beautiful dance that will ultimately bring you to the place that belongs, and that causes the less harm and creates the most beauty, and still acknowledging that we are living fundamentally in a world that is not aligned with our well-being. Like, imagine like there would not be a need for hopping on a scooter for 30 minutes so that we can meet each other, because we would live in houses that we built by ourselves with our own hands, and we harvested the bamboo just by ourselves, and then we built this house and we grew the papaya. We could live a life that would be more in alignment with ourselves, and of course with the whole ecosystem. And then we could use something like the podcast to share that and to inspire people in Canada to maybe do the same. Or maybe we'll become so sensitive that we can't even hold a phone in our hands without freaking out, and then we don't share that, and somebody visits us and they share that, and who don't know how who knows how everything will play out. But yeah, we are on the journey, and we
we came for the mission, but we also came for the journey. Right? That's how I see it. So I mean, we'll do that at some point, but there's no rush.
Yeah,
we came for the journey.
Yeah,
super journey to get there. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I love this kind of a metaphor. I think it's from Alan Watts about the dream. Like, if you were to dream a life every night, and me, I've a remix with a song that I would love to listen. If you would dream your life, like your first, let's say you dream 75 years of life, the first time you dream all the things you want, and it's all perfect, you know? And then you do that again, and then one night you'll be like, okay, I'll add a little surprise. And then you'd become more and more adventurous as you go through the dream. So the universe brings you adventures and things get a bit more complicated, so you need things to resolve. And at the end, you'd end up where you are now, which is the perfect place to be. And of course, we all have also I want that. It's interesting to live with that paradox of building something that we know, and we know it's perfect, that we don't have it now.
Yeah. And in a funny way, through us letting go of these attachments and letting go of our impatience may result in these things manifesting sooner. I strongly feel that. I strongly feel that the more I come into peace with what is really here right now, the more doors open and the quicker things develop. And that's so crazy. That's so crazy. Our mind is always like, okay, these 10-step agendas, and like, how I need to share one story. Maybe you're familiar with Tom Billio. He founded impact theory, and he's one of the like big guys in like interviewing all these people and pushing beautiful message. And at the same time, I sense that he's still like in between the worlds. And he was posting something a couple of days ago. He was posting this question of how can you accomplish your 5-year plans in the next 5 months? And he said, like, the one thing that you need to let go of is patience, because patience makes you too slow, and you really need to go for it, and now's the time, and you need to hustle, and so on. And he posted that on I think it was on YouTube. Nowadays you can post like text post on YouTube. I was really confused, but anyway. And then the first comment, which had the most likes, like, I don't know, 500 likes, somebody said along the lines of, yeah, that sounds nice, but I have the strong feeling that in a couple of months or in a couple of years, you will actually really post a different message, because you realize that it's about patience, and then everything will unfold, and this whole notion that we are talking about surrender, and so on and so on and so on. And this post that he posted, I think a couple of years ago, I could have posted the same, and now I would not post it. Now I would spread a different message, because now I realize, like, it's not about making things happen. It's about allowing things to happen, and to put yourself into the flow of life. And that's so interesting that it's a collective journey. It's a collective journey here.
And and that flow of life, I'd love to add something, which is, that doesn't mean being passive. Yeah. Which is because people can see it as, okay, so you meditate for 2 hours, meditate. For some people, it's their gift. They become monks. They meditate all day. It's perfect. But so, for example, that was one of the message of surrender of ayahuasca for me, which was one of the message was that surrender and flow doesn't mean being passive. Sometimes, actually, she sometimes gave me, and life in general gives me flow of inspiration, where I'm like, okay, my surrender to the flow is to maybe build that company, record that podcast, do that thing, hustle for a year, maybe, you can still hustle in surrender, because you feel the universe through you.
Have you read The Surrender Experiment by Michael Sayers? You know the book?
Yeah.
I love this book so much, because it really shows, like, he's all in on this philosophy, and at the same time he built $1 billion company.
Exactly.
He built $1 billion company in the tech space. And I'm pretty sure that there were a lot of a lot of occasions where things were happening they were really challenging for him, because he was like meditating in the morning for an hour, and then in the afternoon, and in between he was dealing with some kind of nerds who were trying to get things to happen and whatever. But he says, like, this is your journey. Life calls you into a direction, and it's easy to just be connected with yourself and be aligned if you're meditating the whole day. But when you're really dealing with things in the physical world, then this is your growth potential. This is your playground. Can you be in surrender when your company gets sued from your biggest competitor? Can you get sued when can you be in surrender when you're almost going to jail? I don't want to spoil the book. Read the book. And I think that's very beautiful. That's very, very beautiful. To see the outside world as an invitation to discover more of who you are, and to let go of any kind of resistances, any clinging, any I need this. But like, okay, yeah, if you approach entrepreneurship in this way, I think you can be really, really successful without needing the success, because then the path is clear, and that's beautiful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's the bypass. I'm like, okay, so I do nothing.
Yeah. For me personally, when I say I do nothing, like not a single day passes before I'm so full of inspiration that I want to do certain things, because I'm like, okay, I'm so full, my cup is full, I'm recharged, I feed my body with nourishing food, and I meditate, and I sleep well, and I'm in nature. Okay, now let's rest, let's play, let's build something, let's make an impact, but not because I need it, but just because I want to share, I want to play, I want to, like, consciousness wants to experience itself in relationship, in business, in parenting, in building your house, in doing things. That's what we are here for. Yeah. But with the underlying assumption of this is not what it's about. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add?
This feels like a really good conclusion. Yes. I mean, of course, there's a lot of other things we can and will talk about.
Yeah.
It feels very beautiful for now. Like, I love that. To conclude, I love that you invited me here on, like, your terms are a little bit more flowy, like without preparing necessarily something or like an even topic. And it was amazing. Yeah, it was a beautiful show.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. Looking forward to future creations. And I enjoyed the journey. I enjoyed the journey a lot. It inspired me. And it gives me a lot of gratitude that we have met, and that we are at the beginning of something beautiful that will unfold. So thank you.
Oh, wow. That was beautiful. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If what Alex shared today resonated with you, I can highly recommend you to follow him. He has an amazing podcast, sharing a lot on Instagram. He has a Telegram channel. I will link everything in the show notes. Yeah, it was a blast. It was a blast. Looking forward to further conversations, and for building the new earth together. This is our path. And even though we only got to know like last week, I still feel so strongly that we will be allies on this journey. So Alex, I appreciate you. I appreciate you and your work and your being and your beautiful energy. Thank you. Talk to you soon. See you in the next podcast. If you want to embody everything that we talked about today, then I can highly recommend you to check out Align. Align is my retreat that I will be hosting like two times in 2023. Once in Poland, in Europe, and the Białowieża National Park, the last primeval forest in Europe, home to the European bison, 3,000 square kilometers of really untouched, pristine forest. Incredible place. Or in November here in Bali, in my home in Mount Batu Karu. There we will put to practice everything that we talked about today. and awaken the pure, undistracted, divine life force energy that wants to flow through you, so that all your projects, everything you want to accomplish, everything you want to build in business, every impact that you want to make will just flow. Just flow. Because as Tony Robbins says, your energy is your greatest asset. It's time to activate. It's time to activate that 24/7, 365. Become the vessel for this life force. So looking forward. Links are in the show notes. Check that out. See you there. And then talk to you in the next episode. Thank you.